Hey, this is Mark. I'm back with another fantastic episode of Finding Your Summit. And this week we've got Chris Norton. And Chris lives the story of something that literally was my potentially worst nightmare growing up as a young athlete, a young football player, ultimately making it into the NFL. But Chris grew up in Iowa and played successfully in high school, then went on to a smaller college, D3 school, was on kickoff team his freshman year, ran down the field, unfortunately went head on with some other guy's knee, and that locked him up and could not get off the ground. He was paralyzed. And so this story is one of triumph. This story is one that is still developing, and the story is one of love. And Chris is just a fantastic young kid. And he's fought through all this. He met this amazing dynamo superstar, rock star, is what she is, a woman that ultimately married him just recently in April of 2018. They have just done the most amazing things. It was actually documented by People magazine of when he got married, actually trying to get up out of his chair. His videos have been seen over 300 million times. And there was a film that was done on him called 7 Yards. You got to listen to this guy's story. It is truly amazing. So as always, please go in and rate and review. It's really helping us out. We continue to climb the ladder in terms of downloads. And remember, at the end of the day, these pods are all about people overcoming their adversity. And what I try to do is really reach out and find a variety of different people. And if you know anybody, please email me. You can get to me via my website, www.markpattisonnfl.com. I respond to everything that is sent to me, so please do so. Any comments, questions, or referrals of people you think would be a great fit for this show. You can also sign up for my newsletter, which is delivered every week, as I'm very fortunate to have a new sponsor on board. I talked about this a few weeks ago, Violets Are Blue Skincare. This was a woman, Cynthia Bestman, who overcame cancer and discovered that she wanted to start putting much more organic products on her face, on her skin, and her hair. And she did that, and she created this amazing skin line. So Violets Are Blue Skincare. I highly recommend that you go online and you check this stuff out. It is fantastic. I love it. Okay? So on that note, let's go talk to Chris. Hey, it's Mark Pattison back again with another incredible episode, and I'm very grateful and privileged and honored to have this kid on. His name is Chris Norton, and we're going to get into this in a minute, but he hails all the way west of Palm Beach, Florida, and I am now broadcasting live from Sun Valley, Idaho, all the way across the U.S. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, man. Listen, your story was passed to me by a good friend of mine, Deb Klein. Deb's daughter, Claude, and you apparently work out or have worked out in the past in the same Barwick Institute. And she's got her adversity, you've got yours, but she passed on a video and I watched it and I literally had tears coming to my eyes. Such an inspirational story. In addition to that, I'm honored to talk to you. I'm very grateful that Deb passed this story along to me.
Yeah, Deb is awesome, and I love Claude. They are great people, hard workers, too.
I want to start with a quote. I'm not sure where this came from. This might just be from you. I want to talk about this, and then I want to jump into kind of your situation, and then I want to backpedal a little bit. So I found this quote. It goes something like this: stand in the face of adversity for an idea to empower the world. Did you come up with that?
I have a great team with me that been working on just how to really bring my message to life and what does that symbolize. And I think to stand up, it's not just merely the physical ability to stand, but to stand up in the face of adversity, stand up for an idea, and that we all should be taking a stand.
I'm standing in the same, not the same fight, but we all have our own situations. It's all about adversity and what you do with that when card is dealt in your way. The podcast, of course, is called Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And certainly that has happened to you. And for the listener, I just want to set the bar by saying that Chris is a guy, a fellow football player like myself. When he was in college, had a bad hit on a kickoff coverage team and lay motionless on the ground. You were paralyzed, right? Let's just rewind a bit. So It sounded like that you grew up in Iowa, and I don't know if high school football star is the right word or not the right word, but it sounded like you were involved in all the different sports and had just a great childhood growing up and supportive parents and siblings.
Yeah, up until 18 years of life, everything went according to plan. No major hiccups, or I never faced severe adversity. I was involved with a lot of different sports, school activities. I had a great family, great relationships. Life got pretty easy for me those first 18 years.
So then you went off to a college called Luther College, a D3 football school. Well, I don't know if it was a football school. They had football at Luther College. Why did you choose that college, number one? The second thing is, how soon in your development were you, actually playing out there? Was it your freshman year?
Yeah, so I chose Luther College in Northeast Iowa. I wanted to continue playing sports after high school. I love competition. I'm always competing in everything I do. And so I thought playing football another couple of years in college, I figured I'm not going to be able to strap on the pads after I graduate from college. I could always play basketball. I could have played college basketball, but I went the football route. And then my freshman year at Luther College, I worked my way up on all the special team units on the varsity, doing kickoff coverage and return, punt and punt block. I was slowly working my way up the depth chart. I was second string, strong safety. I'm starting to get some more varsity time at the defensive position. And then it was about 6 weeks into the season when everything changed for me on a kickoff while I was making a tackle.
How big were you?
I was pretty undersized for my position. I was 185 pounds, about 5'11". I wasn't the strongest, fastest, or quickest player, but something I was good at. I was good at tackling. I learned at a young age that if I can run harder and get lower than the other player, I can take out anybody, regardless how much bigger they were than me. So that was kind of my mentality. I was fearless when I put on the pads and helmet. And so the coaches recognized that, and they slowly started inserting me into the game because I was just making plays.
There's so many parallels for when I was playing back in my day. And so I went to a big high school in Seattle called Roosevelt High School. And I was very fortunate to get scholarship offers at D1 schools. And so I ended up choosing to go to the University of Washington. And back in those days, they were kind of back to where they were now, but we're going to Rose Bowls, and every year you're going somewhere. We had really good teams. And so I came in, I was 6'2", 181 pounds, and I could not bench my weight. A lot of the upperclassmen used to call me crash and burn because I was fearless like you, but I just didn't have the strength, right, to take on that level of talent. But more so, a lot of times when you really beef up, you're also providing protection around your body, building up those muscles so that they can insulate you against those big tackles, So I salute you for, you had all the guts in the world to go out there and take these guys on, but, your body probably wasn't as physically developed. I didn't really start playing until my third year. And there was a lot of time spent in the weight room before I ever saw the light of day on the field. And when I did, I was prepared for it. But in your case, probably at a D3, they're probably playing more guys, and you've got talent, and you could see that. That must have been what was going through, working your way up on the special teams.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I was just fearless. I wasn't very strong. I needed a lot more time in the weight room and development. My body, I was still growing. Now I'm probably at 6'1". I didn't physically matured yet as an 18-year-old. But yeah, I was fearless. I had some raw talent.
I played this position in particular in the NFL, which was that L2 or R2, which is that kind of right or left outside end on kickoff team. And essentially, your job is to run like a crazy man as fast as you can for 60 yards until you come upon the wall. And once that wall, you got to crash through that wall or somehow or another get to that returner and take him out. And that's what you did. I saw the film, the play on that, and it looked like there was a small opening that came open on that right side, and you just went in head first.
Yeah, exactly. I was just sprinting as hard as I can. I saw that opening. I had to keep outside containment, and once I knew that the runner wasn't going to be running outside, he was going to run through this hole, I made just kind of an instinct decision to go for it and try to cut him off. I lost sight of him amongst different players. I just took the angle that I thought would be best to get my head in front of the ball carrier and crash with my shoulder pads. But fortunately, I mistimed the jump just by a split second. My head collided right with his legs. All of a sudden, I'm just laying there face down motionless. I can't feel a thing. I hear a player come over the top of me, Norty. They all called me Norty. My last name's Norton. They're like, get up, Norty. And I'm telling them, I'll be fine. Just give me a second. I just need some more time. I just can't move or feel anything. It just felt like someone just turned off the power to my body. And so I'm just waiting for this power to come back on so I can get up and run off the field, because it felt like any other play. I made a similar play like that hundreds of times on kickoff. I just sprinting down, running in front of the ball carrier, and it's always worked out for me. So I've never had any concussions or any issues like that. I've always tried to play very smart, but on this one, again, maybe my body wasn't physically developed, just missed time to jump, and next thing I know, I'm motionless from the neck down.
Yeah, something that you can relate to and I can relate to is that I think what a lot of people don't really understand is that when you're running 60 yards as fast as your legs can take you, it is almost impossible to stop as they're coming towards you, because there's a guy with the ball trying to run past you, and to not have your momentum take you kind of leading with your head. It's just a really hard thing not to do. And that's, so many times in the NFL and college, they're really trying to look at how they change that rule to prevent as many injuries as they've had on those different kickoff and kickoff return teams. It's been pretty intense. My question for you is, as you're laying there, were you in pain?
I wasn't in any pain at all. I couldn't feel or move a single thing, and that includes pain. So I was just confused. I had a stinger once in high school, once again trying to tackle a player much bigger than me. I took him out, but as a result, I had a really bad stinger. And it left me motionless on the right side of my body for about a minute. And after a minute, I was able to finally get movement and feeling back, and I walked off the field. So I'm just thinking I just have a really bad stinger. I just need some more time. And the trainers run out and they start asking me all their questions, like, Chris, can you make a fist with your hand? I tried making a fist, nothing worked. They asked, Chris, can you feel us touching your leg? And I couldn't feel a thing. They keep asking these questions. And I had the same answer was no. I was so confused of why this was happening. Eventually they get the EMTs. The EMTs then call in for a helicopter. And that's when I knew, okay, this is serious. Like, this is not just like a routine injury or play. Like, this is something very severe. At that point, I just closed my eyes and began to pray. I was trying to block out everything that was going on around me because, again, my life was going perfect. Everything was going according to plan. I did not want anything in my life to change. And I was so scared and uncertain for the future and what would my life be like going forward. And so I was just trying to block it out and just pray for strength and just put this all behind me.
I'm just trying to imagine this. So is this one of these scenes where everybody on the field, they're kneeling down, the stands grow quiet, they ultimately bring over like a hardboard, they get you on that, they get you off on the side of the field, and then the helicopter lands there?
Yeah, I mean, the stadium was very quiet. Everybody down on one knee. They pushed me across the field to get into the ambulance, and then the ambulance took me to the local hospital. Then from the local hospital, the helicopter landed on the roof of the hospital, and they flew me out to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
Your mind is going a million miles per hour and just praying and hoping, obviously, for the best. And I'm sure your mind wasn't even going to what ultimately happened to you, which was the full-on fracture of your C3 and your C4.
Yeah, I was completely naive to spinal cord injuries and what that means or what that looks like. So I was just completely confused. I'm thankful that I was completely naive to that because I feel like things would have been even worse for me knowing what the results could have been. So I was uncharacteristically calm. But again, like everything just worked out for me. So I just thought, whatever this scare is, it's going to work out for me. Things will be fine. Like this isn't going to disrupt my life because up to this point, nothing disrupted my life. It wasn't until right before surgery when I asked the surgeon, will I walk again? And at this point, I'm thinking, I don't care if I ever play a single down of football. I don't care if I play sports again. Just give me the ability to walk. And he said, I don't know. And he just had this look and body language of failure and just disappointment. You could just read it on him. And he just looked down the ground and just said, I don't know. And that was the moment when I really lost it and was really scared, thinking like this might be my life. And I wake up on October 17th, 2010, and they tell me, Chris, you have a 3% chance to ever regain any feeling or movement back below the neck. I was just devastated. I was crushed. Like, how could this be? And I had to pretty quickly just reject it and just get back to my stubborn mindset of, I'm not going to be part of the 97%. I'm going to be the 3%. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be that 3%.
Yeah, I mean, that's the full-on warrior mentality, which I'm sure is the exact same reason why you got yourself on the field as a freshman. Just relentless and fearless and everything else. The story you just told me is the exact nightmare, obviously, that you lived, but I also feared back in the day. You know, I was a wide receiver, so it was guys like you that I'd go over the center, jump high in the air, and just get cracked. You're probably too young to remember this guy, but there was a guy, Oakland Raider DB, that just completely took out a guy for the Patriots, Darryl Stingley, and he had the same end result that happened to you. And so that always was like in the back of my mind, like my greatest fear ever would be have something like that happen to me. Thankfully, it didn't. But your story just takes a dramatic turn for a lot of reasons. So now you're focusing on this 3%. So what were the things that you had to do? What was the grind in terms of your rehab to try to even have a shot at this 3%? What did you have to go through?
The first thing I try to focus on is what can I control? Like, what can I do? Which at the point seemed like little to nothing, but I knew I could control my attitude and my effort. Something that no one can take away from me. And so something I try to focus on is just what can I do today? What's one thing I can improve on? And so the first thing they give me to do was just to nod my head yes and no. I could just do it very slightly. And I would nod my head yes and no for hours. And eventually I was able to move my neck more, and then I was starting to shrug my left shoulder, beating the odds, and I would shrug my left shoulder for hours and hours on end. And I just kept requesting for more therapy hours and more training hours, and just asking my occupational therapist who worked with my upper body and my physical therapist who worked with my lower body to write up workouts I can do on my own. And I was just willing to do and take that extra step because I knew like my future will take care of itself when I take care of today. And that's my motto, is just making sure I take care of today and the rest will fall into place. Because looking down the road and looking in the future of all the uncertainty of where I was at was absolutely daunting. It made me want to quit. And I think that's with anything in life. If you look too far down the future, sometimes that's the most paralyzing thing you can do to yourself. But if you can just focus on, okay, what can I do today to get a little bit better? That's what's going to set you up for that future success.
Now we're switching over a little bit into my world, which is mountain climbing now, and everything is about one step in front of the other as you're trying to achieve that summit. And it sounds like a lot of those parallels hold true to what you had to go through. You couldn't look at your whole life as a whole. You had to look at just minute by minute, hour by hour. What can you do to improve and hopefully get yourself to the next step? So you're in this rehab for 5-6 years? I'm sure you're still going through stuff, but where was the point where they could release you from this certain rehab facility and now your decision to say, hey, I want to go back and finish up my college?
It was 7 months of inpatient, outpatient in Minnesota before I went home to Des Moines, Iowa. And that summer of Des Moines, 2011, that's when I decided that I need to go back to college, get my degree, and also continue my training. So in the fall of 2011, I returned to Luther College and the campus. I lived in a dorm there with some friends. I still needed a lot of help, guys to get me to and from class. I could only type with the side of my left pinky on a iPad. I couldn't even use a computer, couldn't use any books or textbooks. It was quite the challenge, but you just made it work. When you really want something, you'll figure it out. And so I was just bound and determined to go to school and try to live as much of a normal college life as possible. That's when I started school back up and just trying to make things work. And I'm really thankful that I wasn't just focusing on my physical recovery, because at that point I thought if I couldn't walk, then I would be a failure, and that I need to focus all my effort into walking and training. Thankfully, I split that time up to also work on my career and trying to find something that I love to do, because I find more fulfillment in what I'm doing now and the purpose that I'm living for than any physical movement has ever gave me.
So you just talked about your friends. Obviously, it takes a village. So you just mentioned your friends, your buddies that would help you to class and all the other things that you needed. What about your parents? Where did they come in?
My parents were incredible. They were at the football game when I was injured. They came out into the field, and then they drove right up to the hospital when I got airlifted. And then they never left my side. There was always someone in my room, always someone with me every step of the way. And that was just huge to have my parents there. I'd have my 2 sisters there with me at all times. I had friends and community members visiting me. That really meant a lot to me, because I think people in society, we undervalue the appreciation and what you can gain from people's presence, because people think that if they can't relate with you, then how can they help? Well, you don't have to have the perfect words to tell somebody. You don't need to like fix them. Like when someone's going through something hard, they just want you to be there for them. They just want to know they're not alone. And so that was something that my parents and family and friends did, was they made sure to know that I would never be alone in this fight, that I can always lean on them, because they didn't know what I was going through. They couldn't relate, but they were always there for me. They gave me their presence. And that's, I think, the most valuable present you can give to somebody is that, even if you don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's the power of human connection.
Definitely.
I think you just said something that really insightful, and that's to anybody who's listening. And then my dad, died of a massive stroke. And when you're going through those type of tough times, as you just said, going towards the person versus shying away is always the right move. One time there was a friend of mine who died last year of this awful cancer, and I called him up after like a year, and I just sat on the phone, and I would just go, hey, I've got literally nothing to offer, but I just want to call and say hi, and it meant the world to him. Yeah, so that's amazing that your parents, were there, and your friends and your family and everybody else was there to really help lift you up. So now in 2017, now you'd gone through, obviously it took you a few years, probably longer than you thought, to actually graduate from college because, like you said, you can't hold a book and you're limited in these different things that you had to do. Plus you're doing all this rehab training.
I finished school a semester later than what I was scheduled to do. Originally, I was supposed to graduate in 2014. I ended up graduating the fall semester of 2015. And that's where I was training simultaneously to walk my graduation stage, which I set the goal to do.
Now you're back in school, you're with your buddies, you're making it through and you're progressing. And where in that, was it day one or the first quarter, second? Where did you plant that goal? Like, you know what? My goal is to walk across that stage and accept that diploma.
It would have been the first year I was back in college where I set the goal that I want to walk across the stage of my college graduation. I didn't know how I was going to do it, and I wasn't vocal about it. I wasn't open about it because I was kind of scared to let people in on that goal because I might fail. But it was about a year before my graduation, maybe a little bit longer, where I made it more vocal. And it helped me be more accountable for my goal. I told everybody that cared to listen that this is my goal. I'm going to figure out a way to walk across the stage. And it just made me just that much more committed to it because it gave me that accountability. So there's kind of two answers to that question, just because I had it in my mind and then it really took a turn when I vocally told people.
I'm sure, including yourself, you don't know what that end result's going to be. It's a kind of a high stakes, are you going to get up? Are you going to fall down? Is it going to happen? And just to graduate on top of that's incredible. So let me ask you about a person named Emily Summers. Do you know her?
I do know her. She is now my wife.
That's awesome. And the video that I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe she was on stage and the goal was to get up and she helped you navigate across that stage to get that diploma. It's just a very emotional moment.
Emily was a big reason to vocalize my goal in the first place. She really encouraged me to go after it, and she really believed in me. It gave me more belief in myself and to make it happen regardless of the end results. And just to know that you gave it your all is what's most important. So that's when I really committed to that goal. We've been dating for a few years, and then it was actually the day before my college graduation in which I proposed to her. And I was more nervous for that proposal than the actual graduation walk. Wow. Not that she would say no, I just wanted to go perfect. But it would have been really awkward if she would have said no.
Did Emily go to Luther? Is that where you met her?
I met her at Iowa State University. She was going there at the time when I was going to Luther. And we met about 3 years after my injury.
Obviously, she's an incredible woman. To the listener, this is a video that I saw of Chris getting up and Emily helping Chris kind of navigate this whole thing. This YouTube video has been seen by more than 300 million people. So we're going to put this in the show notes when this pod comes out, and it's just incredible, and it will move you to tears. And I think I saw what you read is, it was just all your focus, all your effort was just to get yourself out of that chair and move a foot forward. And when all this stuff happened, you turned around and everybody was in tears.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable moment. I was nervous. I knew that it wasn't just me graduating. There's a lot of people graduating. So I was worried I was going to get booed off the stage or something. Taking my time going across the stage, I had a lot of pressure on myself. And then when I looked up to receive my diploma, everybody was clapping and crying. There was so much emotion in the room, and it caught me off guard. That wasn't the reaction that I was anticipating, but it was just a really special moment, a moment that I'll never forget. And then to see it go viral and touch so many lives across the world had really put in motion my new purpose in life, which is just to give back and help other people find an inspiration to overcome their own adversity. And like you said earlier in the show, we're all facing adversity in some way. Mine, you can see, it's visible, but a lot of our challenges and adversity, you can't see, it's invisible. You can't see someone who's going through depression or fighting cancer. You can't see someone who's lost a loved one. You can't see someone who's in debt, divorce, whatever it may be. Those are all challenges and adversity that we all face that aren't visible. And so when people are more than willing to be kind and thoughtful to me, what I encourage them to do is to continue that on to someone that you don't know or whose challenges you can't see, because once again, we're all facing something.
I think you just said that absolutely perfectly. And the reason why I started this podcast is because I've had plenty of my adversity with a divorce and with my dad passing away and other things. And I think you're right. I ask this question when I'm out public speaking and I say, hey, has anybody ever been through a tough time? I wait for the hands to either go up or down. And if they don't go up, I'm like, well, okay, but you're lying, because everybody's gone through something that's just relevant to their experience, what they've gone through. And also mirroring what you just said about some people are very visible like yourself and others aren't, but it affects everybody in their own way because it's unique and special to them because they're going through it, of course.
Yep.
When did you get married to Emily?
April 21st of 2018, so just a few weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Oh man, that's incredible. How did People Magazine get involved in all this? Because there was a second video that I saw. They filmed this whole marriage that you guys had, and it was beautiful and amazing and emotional. But tell me a little bit about that.
There's a documentary team called Photolanthropy. They're making a documentary on my life story from my injury all the way to my 7-yard walk, which was to walk Emily down the aisle 7 yards after we got married. And the film's called 7 Yards Film. And so they're filming all these different shots and angles at the wedding and leading up to it. And then we entered into a great relationship with People Magazine that they wanted to be the exclusive partner to be able to share the story when it hit media and newsstands and be part of their magazine and everything. So I've been working with both those groups to just get the story out there and to give people hope and inspiration, because again, we're all facing something, and to show me and Emily moving forward despite our circumstance, I think is a beautiful thing. We hope that other people find that inspiration to move past whatever they're dealing with.
You put these different goals, right? Of one, walking on stage to accept your diploma, and then also walking 7 yards. Both of you said, I do. Now you're officially married. And so in your rehab, how long did that take for you to get that down?
I mean, you could say that I've been training for 7.5 years since I was first injured for that moment, because it's been nonstop working for the last 7.5 years. So after the graduation walk, I knew I wanted to walk Emily down the aisle once we were married, but I didn't know how we were going to do it or what we were going to do. And so we decided that Emily and I were going to walk side by side down the aisle versus her being in front of me. So if you look back at the graduation walk, she's in front of me holding on to 2 arms pretty tightly. And then the wedding walk, she's at my side, which I don't get a lot of support with. And 7 yards is a lot further than the couple yards I went for the graduation walk. So the first time we tried training for that side-by-side walk about a year ago, I couldn't even take one step. And I was so frustrated. I was thinking, what kind of goal did I get myself into? This could be problematic if I can't even take one step right now. But just over time, once again, just putting as much effort as I can each and every day to get just a little bit better. And slowly over time, where I got to the point the last week or two before the wedding, I knew I was going to get those 7 yards. I knew I was physically strong enough, and I trained myself to be ready for that moment.
So how does that work with your body? I'm just trying to imagine this. As you mentioned, when you're laying there on the ground back at Luther College and you can't feel anything. Now you're in a position today where you can take X amount of steps. Just walk me through that.
Yeah, so I have an incomplete injury, which some of the nerve connections are still intact at the injury site. So a complete injury is a severed spinal cord injury, and that means you can't get anything back below the injury site. Well, I've been able to regain some strength below the injury site. So I've regained sensation throughout my entire body where I can feel touch. It's not normal sensation, so I can't feel pain or I can't feel temperatures. I can feel my legs moving and activating, but I can't feel muscle soreness. So it's just not a real deep sensation, but I can still feel all those different feelings and movements. And then my training is just a lot of mental training too, because Like, I know how to move my legs, I know how to move my arms, but it's just a matter of connecting that signal to those muscles. And sometimes you have to just really concentrate to really get that signal across, because those signals have been damaged so severely from that hit that it takes some more time and it takes some more kind of patterning to make it come to life and make it reactivate again.
What is the trajectory for where you sit today to where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years?
So tough to answer. And that was probably the hardest part of a spinal cord injury, especially an incomplete injury. When I try to talk to my surgeons and doctors, like, given the prognosis, like, what's going to happen to me? It was always, I don't know. Everybody's different. It's hard to categorize different injuries because there's millions and millions of nerve roots and endings that it's hard to predict what comes back or doesn't come back. So that was probably the most frustrating thing about all of this, is just the uncertainty. And that's where they thought, given my injury level and what I had at the time, they gave me a 3% chance to get any feeling or movement back below the neck, not just to walk, but just to feel or move, to scratch an itch on my face, to be able to breathe on my own, to feed myself, all those little things that are easily overlooked. So I don't know what the trajectory is for me for 5 or 10 years. I know I want to focus on my upper body, get some strength back, to do more wheeling. I would like to do some like hand cycling and just be more independent from my chair. I'm going to still work on my walking, but make sure I'm taking care of my upper body as well. And then just career-wise, though, I'm really motivated to just share from the worst day of my life on October 16th when I was hit hard to the best day of my life when I walked Emily down the aisle of our wedding, and just sharing like how I did it and the steps that I took, steps that anyone can take to take you from a place of hardship and adversity to a place that exceeds your imagination. So that's really where I'm really focused at.
When I was talking with Deb before this pod, she said that your wife, Emily, is just a complete dynamo, which obviously she is. Didn't you guys take on, you've got about 18 kids too now?
It feels like we have 18 kids. The real number is 5. But yeah, it's a circus at our house, but it's so fun. And these kids are from the foster care system, and it's just really rewarding to us just to be able to offer them a home and love and care, and just see the transformation that takes place in their life and in their attitudes and their demeanor, and really see them become the people who they're really meant to be, because they come in so broken from wherever they were at before. And so just to give them that home is something that Emily and I love, and something that Emily really encouraged me to take on.
Emily already is a rock star for taking this on from the standpoint of knowing that it's just not the normal type of relationship where healthy on both ends and everything else. And so to not only go down this path with you with complete excitement and joy, but also to take on these 5 little ones in your life is a lot. And I've got 2 girls, and there are no issues at all that you just talked about, a broken home and broken heart and broken spirit and things like that. And that's just not the case, but it's still hard. Kids are hard. It can be very joyful. I'm so blessed to have mine. And another kudos to you. You do not shy away from challenges.
Absolutely not. We do not shy away from challenges. I think Emily and I, we kind of embrace challenges. We look for the challenge, because that's when life becomes its most beautiful, is when you can get through those challenges. Like when you can overcome them, there's something special about that and rewarding about that. And so we kind of go towards the brokenness, and we go towards things that are tough. And as a result, I feel like we're living our best life by doing that. And we just really appreciate of where we are and what we're doing. And we just feel so good about it. And for me, myself, like if I could go back to change that play on October 16, 2010, I wouldn't do it, because I found a life that's worth living for, and I found a purpose. My spinal cord injury has given me opportunities that before were inconceivable. I'm able to reach millions of people now and to inspire them and help them overcome their own challenges. And so those kind of things are just so rewarding to me, more rewarding than any physical ability.
You've got life in the absolute right mirror in terms of looking at it with 100% positivity. You're really paying it forward. You had this awful thing happen to you, and you're taking this and you're finding the magical gifts that have been wrapped up in this. And now you're being that parent, both you and your wife, Emily, to these kids who otherwise would not have had this kind of life. It's really a multiplier effect, right? Because you're affecting their life, but then they're going to grow up and hopefully they're great people and they affect change. And so it can be multiplied for years and years and years with all these generations of their kids to come and people they marry. So that's just amazing. So let's talk about The Power of Faith When Tragedy Strikes, a book that you and your dad wrote.
Yeah, so my dad and I wrote this book and completed it back in October of 2015. And that just tells our story from the day of the injury all the way to the graduation walk. And it's really in depth with the different things that we had to encounter each and every day at the hospital and all those challenges that came with a spinal cord injury, which again, it's much more than just the walk and the sacrifices that I had to make, the sacrifices that my family had to make, and then just how faith really carried us through those most difficult times. So to be able to share those details and how we were able to overcome it and how other people can do it too is really special to have that in book and to have a great writer like Christy Hayes write it for us. Emily and I were really close to wrapping up a book proposal for a new book about our love story and how, once again, faith and love really carried us through to make those 7 yards possible and going from a 3% chance to walking 7 yards. So it's a couple things that we're just very excited about.
I know you're also public speaking out there too, right?
Yeah, I have a motivational speaking career and sharing, again, what I did and the actions that I took that anyone can take. Because we all take hits in life. We need to stand back up once we take a hit. We need to have that comeback.
And where can people find you?
The best way to find me is chrisnorton.org. That's my website where you can look and see my motivational speaking. You can see my book, my film, and connect with me on social media. I do a lot on Instagram at Chris A. Norton 16. You can find that again once all on my website.
That's awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all this stuff in the show notes, including those little video clips on YouTube that I saw. I saw another one on Facebook. They're just incredible. I really didn't know that much about you. And then Deb sent me some stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to interview this guy. This guy's amazing. You're such an inspiration to so many, certainly myself, and feel very honored and grateful that you came on the pod today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, take care.
Take care.
Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey. And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. Okay, and if you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattison.nfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.